Hey guys, it's Ken Maxfield, the Hide Guy, and I am the managing editor and president of the Maxfield Report. This video, I'm going to do a recap of what happened in the market for the week ending January 25th. Week started off with Packers offer lists much shorter than they had been in the past few weeks. That's a result of some popular opinion that there's been some decent sales the last 2 to 3 weeks here in the States. That's allowed Packers to mend some of their forward sold position that had been ailing quite a bit. In fact, offer lists this week saw many different selections removed from list. Just a handful of items offered, and of course, some Packers actually trying to seek even higher asking prices on the items they did offer. One of the Packers, in particular, had their offer list the same as the week prior. However, the shipping time on all of the offers had moved out anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. So very firm tone in the market coming into the week. As far as interest, it started off a little sluggish. I think that was attributed to a number of things. One being the lack of offers. Two being people are asking higher prices. So not a lot of bids to choose from, certainly fewer bids than the last 2 to 3 weeks. The one thing is Packers were not yielding on their prices. There were still, bids out there, $1 to $2 down. The one thing to keep in mind, the number of aggressive bids almost vanished. People trying to buy $5, $6, $8 under ask. Those weren't as prevalent last week as they had been. So I think overall, that meant buyers are recognizing the firmer tone of the market. As far as why we saw all this interest the last 2, 3 weeks and then what happened now, popular opinion, talking to a lot of different pundits, and I tend to agree with them, is that a lot of tanners came in after the Christmas and New Year's holiday. They had some open lines of credit. Hide prices were cheap. They don't have a lot of confidence. The U.S. and China are going to be able to mend their trade war and be able to agree to something. That March 1st deadline was looming. So I think a lot of tanners came in. They bought hides with the understanding they were going to deliver before March 1st. This week that we just went past was the last chance to ship hides, to get them to China before March 1st. And that's why I think you're starting to see interest slow down. In addition, many tanneries were wrapping up their activities the end of this past week because they're going to have Chinese New Year celebrations. They're going to close down for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. So all of that came together is why you didn't see a lot of trading this week. But the hides that did sell traded at fully steady, if not slightly higher levels. So, depending if you want to look at a, glass half full, half empty, prices half full because they got a little better prices. Total volume, half empty, didn't match the harvest because there wasn't a lot of hides sold. On the cow side, not as many offers. That's because there's been some really strong sales the last 2, 3 weeks. A lot of the tanners in the northern part of China up in Hebei have been in the market. They've been chasing dairy cows hard and furious. They've been chasing some of the branded cow material, especially the fed branded cows. So producers and processors have been able to get their sold forward positions mended. They were able to get more money, and it's just the way things shook out. So this week, though, the offer lists were limited. Prices were firm, just like Big Packer interest. It was not as busy as the last 2, 3 weeks. Producers were not yielding on price. So not many hides sold this week, but the hides that did traded at fully steady to slightly higher levels. So overall, producers will look at it as a victory this week. But if you're looking at it in terms of volume sold, that didn't come to fruition, and definitely there were more hides produced than what was sold. Our harvest this past week came in at 610,000. That's versus 620 the week before, and 594 the same week last year. As I've been telling you all along, we're going to see 10 to 15,000 more every week this year versus last year. Although somebody's pointed out to me and sent me an email and said, well, Ken, you said slaughter's going to be higher, and it's down 2.5%. That's because there's been one extra day of slaughter in 2018 versus 2019. If we would add that day back, instead of being down by 60,000 head versus last year, we would be up 60,000 or 2.5%. I think for the year, you're going to see about a 1.5% increase over last year, just FYI. Let's go around the world real quick before we wrap things up. Our friends in Europe tell us that they started to see a little better interest last week. Nothing over the top like they'd seen in the States. There's still a lot of hides for sale in Europe, especially the male hides and better quality, heavier weight hides. That's just due to declining automotive business. And that's tied into because car sales have been so poor the last 3 months, going on almost now 4 months if you include this month. So that's reduced the requirements for a lot of tanners, not only in Europe, but around the globe as far as automotive. That's taken a toll on that business. They started seeing a little better interest on cows, just like we did in the States. That's a positive. So, little higher prices up off the lowest of last year. Not a huge round of business, but at least maybe some signs of people starting to buy. But now we're getting that situation I mentioned just a minute ago. You got tanners taking off for their Chinese New Year holiday, and probably not going to be a lot of follow-up interest over the next couple of weeks here. So go down to Brazil. Not any change down there. I think there's still too many hides for the amount of demand. The packers are struggling to sell their fresh hides. I'm hearing rumblings that maybe I don't know if $1 to 1 to 1.1 re-ice is actually catching fresh sales now. There's a lot of noise about sales under a 1 re-ice, so we'll keep an eye on that. We'll try to get you more information about that next week. Wet blue, no change. TR1s, if you can take delivery and you can take volume, you can almost name your price. I mean, hovered around a 55-cent level on a square foot basis there. So Australia, they are seeing a little better interest like they did in the States. It hasn't allowed them to get anything up off their last levels. The hides that are destined for the automotive trade, though, they're struggling to get those moved because, again, as we talked about, that automotive business just isn't that strong. So as far as what I look for next week, I anticipate this strong fur market is going to continue as far as the view of the packers. They're not going to want to yield off their prices. They probably won't have that many hides offered. I don't look for a lot of change in the offer list. As far as interest, I suspect we're going to see interest slide, again, because people are on vacation. I don't look for demand to be anything near what we've seen the first half of the month. I think we're going to limp into the month of February as far as the demand side. I don't think packers are going to yield until after the new year, if they're going to yield at all on prices. So that means we've got a couple of weeks here. We're probably going to play a little bit of tug of war back and forth and just a stalemate. So that's it for now. Ken Maxfield, the Hide Guy. Check out my website, www.themaxfieldreport.com. I offer free 14-day trials. If you would, go check it out. Until next week, we'll see you again.